Discover the miraculous journey of Jacob and his 12 sons, unveiling Joseph's divine transformation. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, we turn our gaze back to the lands of Canaan, where the sun sets over the hills of Hebron, casting long shadows upon the tents of Jacob, the son of Isaac and Rebekah. Amidst whispers of ancient promises, Jacob has gathered his family, a tribe of 12 sons, under the stars that flicker like hopes amid the vastness of God's creation. Yet within this sacred camping ground, strife brews like a storm upon the horizon. As the olive trees sway gently in the evening breeze, Jacob's eyes are drawn to his beloved son, Joseph, a boy adorned in a coat of many colors, a gift from his father's heart. This coat, a tapestry of love, serves as a constant reminder of Jacob's boundless affection, igniting a fire of jealousy among Joseph's brothers. Their faces, shadowed by resentment, betray a darkness that has festered beneath the surface. They are not mere witnesses of their father's love, they are his sons cast in the role of forgotten shadows. One fateful day, Jacob, with fatherly diligence, sends Joseph to check upon his brothers grazing their flocks near Shechem. The air thickens with tension as Joseph strides, coat glinting under the sun, blissfully unaware of the treachery that lies in wait. The brothers, engulfed in a web of envy, plot his demise, declaring, "Let us see what becomes of this dreamer." They strip him of his coat, the very emblem of their father's affection, and cast him into a pit, a symbol of despair and separation. In this moment of darkness, God's providence is at work. Joseph finds himself sold into slavery in the land of Egypt, a place rife with uncertainty yet steeped in divine purpose. He toils in Potiphar's house, rising to prominence until betrayal casts him into a prison cell. It is here, amidst the stifling darkness, that the dreams of his youth sustain him. "The God of my fathers is with me," he whispers, believing in the promises that etched his destiny long before his birth. Meanwhile, back in Canaan, famine descends upon Jacob's household like a shroud. The familiar warmth of their land turns cold, and out of desperation, Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to seek grain. Little do they know they stand before the brother they betrayed, now clothed not in a coat but in the regal authority of a ruler. Joseph looks upon their faces, enshrined in fear and regret, yet the memories of his dreams echo in his mind. The air thickens with unspoken emotions as Joseph grapples with the weight of vengeance and forgiveness. His heart beats rapidly, for this is the moment ordained by God, the moment when reconciliation could unfurl, but will he unmask himself? The brothers plead for mercy, unaware that God's hand has led them to this encounter. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Each brother stands at the precipice of divine revelation, caught between shame and hope, while Joseph wrestles with the choice to reveal his identity. A trembling anticipation fills the air. How will this chapter of their lives unfold? The shadows of betrayal loom large over them, yet hidden within this turmoil is the power of God's faithfulness, a tapestry crafted by the master weaver, drawing them back together. What will be the outcome of their testing? As the chapter closes, a divine mystery lingers. The threads of forgiveness and redemption await their weaving into God's ultimate plan. As the tension thickens in the royal court of Egypt, Joseph, now the steward over the grain of the land, contemplates the faces of his brothers Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, and the others. The weight of their betrayal presses heavily upon him, a tempest within his heart. Yet, the unyielding faith of Joseph stirs flames of mercy beneath the ashes of his pain, calling him to a moment of reckoning. Is this not the very fulfillment of dreams? Joseph muses inwardly, recalling the visions of abundance that had been bestowed upon him, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing before him. The swirling emotions threaten to overwhelm him, yet he steadies himself. There is a divine purpose woven into the very fabric of their reunion, a tapestry threaded with grace and redemption. Dividing their requests of grain, Joseph speaks harshly, masking his true identity behind a veil of authority. "You are spies," he declares, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. The brothers recoil, fear entwining with their shame. "You have come to see the nakedness of the land." In weary desperation, they speak of their father, Jacob, and the youngest brother, Benjamin, invoking memories that hover like specters around them. The brothers confess their faults. "Truly, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear." Seeing their pain, Joseph's heart swells with compassion, yet his lips remain sealed, hiding the man he has become behind layers of governance. Days stretch into an agonizing silence, thick with the sting of past transgressions. The brothers' fear is palpable, as each moment weighs heavier upon their souls. After confining Simon to ensure their return, Joseph devises a test, calculating the divine strategy unfolding beneath the surface of human actions. He orders their sacks filled with grain, yet places the silver they had brought back within, a secret gift of burgeoning hope cloaked in trepidation. Upon their return home to Canaan, the brothers unveil their plight to Jacob, their father, a narrative as harrowing as it is transformational. "The man who is lord of the land spoke roughly to us and took Simon captive," they reveal. Jacob's heart trembles, torn between the love for his sons and the looming shadow of loss for Joseph, lost long ago, and now Simon, caught in the web of circumstance. "You have bereaved me," he laments. "All these things are against me." Yet amid grief, God moves. The famine harrows their souls, urging Jacob to relent. With desperation, he permits Benjamin to accompany his brothers back to Egypt, a step taken with fear but steeped in faith. Would they meet Joseph once more, or would fear condemn them anew? As they return, laden with their heavy burdens of guilt and the weight of the unknown, Joseph watches with quivering anticipation, ready to reveal not just his identity, but the greater reality of God's sovereign plan unfolding through their choices and missteps. Understanding dawns upon Joseph. He sees how their hearts, once filled with darkness, begin to shift toward light. Will they embrace the truth and seek reconciliation, or will they remain ensnared by their history? The moment arrives, a dawn breaking through the impenetrable night. Joseph finally unveils himself to his brethren. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" A mixture of dread and disbelief washes over the brothers, hearts racing as the reality pierces their veils of ignorance. In the depths of their horror, the truth begins to unfold, a divine tapestry of forgiveness and restoration, creating a pathway back to love. "Do not be afraid," Joseph reassures them, "for what you meant for evil, God intended for good, to bring about the salvation of many." As they embrace, reconciled and renewed, all heaven watches in awe. For this is not merely a reunion of brothers, it is a marvel of divine orchestration, manifesting God's unfathomable mercy and grand design. Yet, even as the brothers rejoice, the story does not end in mere restoration. For beyond the shadows and the triumph lies a deeper plan interwoven by the hands of the Almighty. "But what you still do not know," Joseph whispers to himself, "is that greater paths await us, and this is but the beginning of God's ultimate promise unfolding in our lives." As the embrace between Joseph and his brothers deepens, an air of astonishment lingers in the room like incense rising before the Lord. Their expressions reflect a tumultuous blend of joy, disbelief, and the haunting shadows of past actions. The brothers find their voices in fits and starts, each grappling with the enormity of their shared history and the grace that has brought them to this moment. "Joseph, our brother?" Reuben stammers, his heart trembling under the weight of recognition. "Is it truly you, or is this a dream that the Lord has fashioned?" "A dream indeed," Joseph responds, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I am your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But see, God has preserved my life for this very purpose, to save you from this famine that none could foresee." In the dim light of the chamber, the flickering oil lamps cast dancing shadows, echoing the tumultuous emotions flooding their hearts. As they recount the past, Joseph speaks with a voice tempered by mercy, "Tell my father of all my glory in Egypt and of all I have seen. Let him know that I shall provide for you and your family, for the famine will last 5 more years." The brothers, stirred by the compassionate resolve of Joseph, feel the chains of despair begin to loosen. They nod silently, understanding that something greater than themselves is at work, and a divine thread of providence weaves through their afflictions. They speak of their father's sorrow and share the burden of regret that has overshadowed their lives since that fateful day in the pit. "Go quickly, gather our father," Joseph commands, his voice filled with urgency. "Bring him to me, and let him see that I live, and that God has placed me as a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house." The brothers bow low, their hearts swelling with gratitude and awe. In that sacred space, a remnant of anger and shame fades, replaced with the promise of healing. With hastened steps, they depart to relay the glad tidings to Jacob, their souls ignited by the hope of reunion. As they make their way back to Canaan, the journey feels different. Each step is lighter, as if the burdens of years past dissolve in the wake of newfound joy and divine intervention. Unbeknownst to them, Jacob's heart beats with trepidation, yet the divine plan is stirring within him as well. Joseph is alive. The brothers exclaim, bursting forth with exuberance as they approach their father. He is ruler over all Egypt. But Jacob, his heart in turmoil, struggles to believe. The cruel twists of fate have hollowed him, casting a shadow over his hope. Yet as the brothers recount the unthinkable events and the glory bestowed upon Joseph, a flicker of disbelief gives way to wonder. The words settle into Jacob's heart like seed sown into fertile soil. "It is enough," he finally utters, sensing the Spirit's whisper, "Joseph my son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." Thus, with renewed vigor, Jacob sets forth to Egypt, propelled by the power of love and reconciliation. The stage is set for the reunion that will not only change the course of his family's destiny but also fulfill the promises of the Lord. As they traverse the land, bringing their aged father to the gates of Egypt, awe fills their hearts anew. Could it be that the very trials they had faced, the heartache and sorrow, were threads in the tapestry that God will use to manifest His glory? In that moment, Joseph stands ready, not just to embrace his father, but to impart the fullness of God's sovereign purpose woven through their lives, for every sorrow has led to this climax of divine redemption. As the chariots roll forth into the sunset, a new chapter dawns, a mysterious journey unfolds, revealing the magnitude of God's plan yet to be unveiled, but what remains unseen is the destiny God has shaped for His people, forged through grace and trials, and it beckons beyond the horizon. As Jacob and his sons draw nearer to the borders of Egypt, a swirl of emotions envelopes them like the vast desert winds. The ancient whisper of their lineage hums through the air, laden with anticipation and spirit. Jacob's heart, though heavy with years of sorrow, beats anew with the thrill of hope. "Behold, we approach the land of our troubles, yet our deliverance awaits," Jacob declares, his voice quivering with fervor. "Let us not fear, for God has ordained this moment." The brothers exchange glances, their spirits ignited by their father's words, reflecting the faith they had long forsaken. Arriving at the gates of Pharaoh's palace, they pause, overwhelmed by the grandeur of the Egyptian realm. The towering walls and regal adornments echo tales of splendor and strength, but it is the might of their brother that draws them forward. They notice the gazes of the Egyptians, curious and astonished at the sight of this foreign family. An attendant hurriedly rushes to inform Joseph of their arrival. Joseph, now adorned in the royal garments of an Egyptian ruler, hears the familiar names and feels the weight of his past lift momentarily. He strides forth, drawing ever closer to his waiting kin. The sun glimmers upon him, and it feels as if heaven itself illuminates the path to reconciliation. As they stand before one another, time suspends a communion of souls born anew. "My brothers," Joseph proclaims, the depth of his voice carrying thunderous emotion, "you who sought to take my life, behold your brother. Your treachery has been transformed into this moment of grace." He stretches out his arms to them, tears mingling with joy. Reuben steps forth, vulnerability crackling in the air. "Forgive us, O brother. We were foolish in our jealousy," he implores, his heart laid bare. "May the Lord have mercy on us, and may you take us to your heart once more." The words tumble forth in a torrent of regret, yet Joseph, embodying the healing grace of God, embraces Reuben, binding them in love and mercy. "Fear not, for God has indeed turned your evil into a promise of good," Joseph reassures, his tone rich with divine perspective. "What you meant for harm, he has used for salvation. Come, let us feast together and rejoice, for this day shall be cherished in our hearts." In the halls of Pharaoh's palace, a great banquet is prepared. The tables overflow with abundant provisions, all seasoned with joy and forgiveness. The sounds of laughter ring out, mingling with the fragrant aroma of roasted lamb and flatbreads. Joseph, seated among his brothers, watches their faces glow with the fire of fellowship rekindled. He recalls his dreams of stars and sheaves bowing down before him and recognizes that the fulfillment of those dreams holds deeper significance, God's sovereign hand unfolding a greater narrative. As they gather, recounting their stories through laughter and glistening eyes, the veils of the past lift, replaced by a future overflowing with divine promise. "This is but the beginning," Joseph whispers to himself, overwhelmed with gratitude. Yet beyond the revelry lies an emerging tension in the heart of Egypt. For as Joseph's family finds refuge in his embrace, a looming shadow stretches across the land, one foretold long ago. The whispers of prophecy echo: those chosen to be a great nation must endure trials, and God's covenant with Abraham must come to fruition. "Thus, not only shall my family find favor here," Joseph declares, gazing into the eyes of his brothers, "but a greater purpose shall be unveiled in this land, we shall multiply and become a blessing, even in the face of adversity." Will they stand firm in divine promise amidst the challenges that lie ahead? As this chapter reveals their reconciliation, a deeper mystery spurs anticipation: what will be the fate of Israel in Egypt, and how will the trials they face act as the crucible for their destiny? The tapestry of God's plan stretches far beyond sight, interwoven with faith and hope, beckoning them onward into his divine destiny. As the days unfolded in Pharaoh's palace, the once shattered hearts of Jacob's family began to mend under the gentle guidance of Joseph. With each meal shared, laughter echoed through the grand halls, a sweet melody that wove the fabric of brotherhood anew. Yet, even amidst the joy, a sense of weight lingered, as burdens unseen pressed heavily upon their hearts. In the quiet moments, Joseph's spirit hovered heavy with a sacred awareness. He understood that reconciliation was only the beginning of a divine narrative that would shape nations. In the stillness before dawn, he sought the face of God, fervently praying for wisdom, light, and strength to guide his family through the shadows yet to come. Meanwhile, Jacob settled in the land of Goshen, a place of richness and sustenance, abundant with the echoes of God's favor. The breath of a new life filled his lungs, yet visions of his son Joseph often haunted him, memories of despair mixed with triumph, a tale woven from the threads of divine intervention. Why did I not trust? Why did I doubt the promises of the Almighty? He murmured to himself under the canopy of stars. As Joseph stood amongst his brothers one evening, the weight of his dreams pressed upon him like a mantle. He gathered them, for words of portent were on his lips. "Brothers, the days of our peace shall be tested, for the Lord has shown me a vision," he announced, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. The brothers paused, their brows furrowing as they shifted their attention to him. "In my dream, I beheld a great famine coming upon the earth, a pall of darkness that would cover the land and test the strength of our spirits," Joseph continued, his eyes ablaze with prophetic fervor. "But fear not, for God shall provide a way for us, a path through the darkness that shall lead to deliverance." With hearts clenched, the brothers listened intently, feeling the stirrings of fear mixed with a hesitant hope. "Yet such trials will require faith and unity, for the Lord will test us as he did our forefathers," Joseph added, recalling the fathers of their faith who had walked through fire unscathed. "We must remain true to the covenant, even when shadows loom." Weeks turned into months, and the promised famine began to strike the lands beyond Egypt. Trees wilted, rivers shrank, and the cries of hunger began to rise like a lamentation upon the air. News traveled far, and soon, the echoes of desperation reached the throne of Pharaoh, prompting him to call upon Joseph, his trusted advisor. "Joseph, gather grain and prepare our people, for the hour of want has approached," Pharaoh commanded with authority that sent shivers through the kingdom. The nations would look to Egypt for sustenance, and in this dire time, Joseph recognized the unfolding of God's providence. As heaps of grain were gathered, the Israelites began to draw nearer, drawn by the desperate grips of hunger. Joseph's heart quickened not solely with the urgency of famine but with the fulfillment of prophetic promise. He knew that eventually, his brothers would return to him. In the quiet corners of his heart, he wondered, will they see me as he who was lost? Or will they again be blinded by shame? The questions churned within him, igniting a flicker of anticipation mingled with trepidation. Just as the tempest swirls before the storm, so too were the hearts of Joseph's family prepared for the trials ahead. With each passing day, the divine hand of God was poised to reveal his greatest purposes for Israel amidst suffering and grace, longing for a people to be made whole once more. Thus, a shadow loomed over Egypt, the days of reckoning approached, reminding Joseph and his brothers of an unshakable truth: every trial holds within it the seeds of transformation. Yet lurking just beyond their understanding was a greater revelation, a divine mystery, whispering through the fabric of time what salvation might emerge from the depths of their struggle. As the famine spread its dark wings over the lands, the earth grew weary of its thirst, and the cries of the starving echoed like a mournful chorus. The sons of Jacob, driven by the iron grasp of hunger, turned their eyes towards Egypt, where they had heard whispers of grain in abundance. Thus, Jacob summoned his sons. "Why do you sit idle, gazing at one another? Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go, buy for us there, that we may live and not die." His voice bore the weight of a father's desperation. With heavy hearts, the brothers prepared for their journey. They journeyed to Egypt, uncertainty shrouding their steps, each man grappling with the memories of their past deeds. Silence enveloped them, as the shadows of regret flickered through their minds like a fleeting breeze. Upon arrival in the bustling city, the brothers stood amongst a crowd seeking sustenance. Their hearts raced as they approached the granary, for they knew not that the governor they sought was Joseph, the brother they had once discarded. It was he who lorded over the grain and gazed upon them with the weight of remembrance etched upon his brow. As Joseph beheld them, his heart stirred a tempest of emotions roiling within. He recognized them, yet they did not recognize him. Veiling his identity, he spoke harshly. "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." Panic seized the brothers, and they exchanged bewildered glances, recalling their past offenses. "No, my lord," they implored. "We are but one man's sons, and we come seeking food. We are honest men, our servant has not come to do evil." Joseph, guided by divine wisdom, pressed them further. "From where do you come? Tell me." His eyes searched their faces, yearning to uncover the truth of their hearts. "We come from the land of Canaan, to buy food," they confessed, their voices trembling before the man whom they had wronged. Moreover, Joseph continued, aimed to test their hearts further, "Your words are empty. By the life of Pharaoh, you are spies. I will imprison one of you while the rest shall return. Bring your youngest brother to me as a sign of your honesty, that your words may be proved true." Fear gripped the brothers as they recalled the anguished heart of their father, Jacob. "We cannot return without Benjamin," Judah whispered, voicing their collective dread. Joseph turned aside to weep, for he perceived the chain of grief that bound them. Yet he arose with a resolve guided by divine purpose. "Go, and may the Lord be with you," he uttered, concealing his identity still deeper within his heart. In the shadows of his actions lay a tapestry of restoration. Thus, as they departed with grains of hope, the brothers spoke among themselves, their conscience heavy. "We are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen." The echoes of their past misdeeds haunted them, but it was for such moments that God sought to weave his divine purpose, bringing forth transformation from their sorrow. As the grain filled their sacks, unknown to them, God's hand was upon their lives, guiding them through the darkness toward a revelation yet to be unveiled. A question lingered in the air, whispering in the stillness: could God's grace outshine the depths of their despair? They were on the precipice of understanding what blessings awaited those who dared to embrace the unfolding of His sovereign plan. As the brothers returned to Canaan, the weight of their journey bore heavily upon them. Their hearts were burdened with fear and guilt, and their sacks of grain, though a semblance of relief, felt tainted by their unresolved past. The road home stretched long and fraught with silent worry, yet they faltered not as they approached their father's dwelling. When at last they stopped before Jacob, his gaze pierced through their solemn demeanor. "Why are your faces so pale?" he demanded with a voice brimming with the protective spirit of a father. "Did you find not the provisions we sought?" And so they recounted their tale, their voices trembling as they spoke of the man in Egypt. "He spoke harshly to us, claiming we were spies. We had to reveal our brother's absence, Benjamin, lest we face his wrath," they confessed, each word threading tighter the fabric of their father's anxiety. At this, Jacob's heart quaked with dread. "Why must you bring more trouble upon me? Joseph is gone, and now you desire to take Benjamin from me as well." His voice fell like thunder, echoing through the air laden with sorrow. Jacob clutched at his garments, despair cascading upon him like the weight of the world. Judah, feeling the weight of responsibility, stepped forward, resolute. "Give him to me, and I will bring him back. I will be surety for him. If I do not return him to you, let me bear the blame forever." His eyes bore a fire of determination amidst the surrounding gloom, striving to restore confidence within his father. Yet Jacob's heart remained knotted with fear. "I cannot bear the thought of losing yet another son. What assurance have we that he shall return safely?" Then Reuben, in a moment of fervor, declared, "Slay my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you." Such words mingled with desperation as he offered the ultimate sacrifice, eliciting the suffocating tension hanging among them. Finally, Jacob succumbed to their pleas, knowing that hunger had wrenched him into a desperate state. "If it must be so, take your brother, and may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man," he acquiesced, as tears of grief bled into the soil beneath him. "Take the best fruits of the land in your bags as a gift, and return with Benjamin." The brothers set forth once more, their hearts a mix of weary hope and despair. As they neared the borders of Egypt again, dark clouds brewed in their minds, yet the promise of grain pushed them ever onward. Upon their arrival, Joseph stood awaiting them at the granary, his heart a tempest of conflicting emotions. When he saw Benjamin, his blood brother, the warmth of kinship ignited in him a deep yearning. Concealing his joy under the guise of authority, he commanded that the men be invited to his house for a meal. The brothers trembled, considering that they had been called to dine with the governor. "We are brought here because of the silver which was found in our sacks the last time," they whispered among themselves, fear wrapping tightly around their hearts. Yet Joseph greeted them with abundant grace, unveiling provisions and hospitality. "Fear not, for the God of your father has given you treasure," he assured, yet none knew the depths of his awareness of their past pain. As they shared the meal, the rich aroma of spices and fresh bread enveloped them, a faint echo of home amidst their sorrow. But for Joseph, the sight of Benjamin awakened the kaleidoscope of memories, the dreams that once danced before him in his youth, and the longing for restoration grew profound. In his heart surged the divine purpose that led him to this moment, a realization that their journey held significance far beyond mere sustenance. "Their hearts shall be tested, and redemption shall flow from the waters of sorrow," he mused silently, as the path toward reconciliation beckoned. Thus, the table was set, and in the midst of their fragile understanding, a question lingered, a divine whisper beckoning the dawn of reconciliation: could grace and restoration transform betrayal into brotherhood? As the brothers ate, they stood on the threshold of destiny. Unaware of the depths of God's sovereign plan, waiting to unfold in a tapestry woven with threads of mercy and revelation. And it came to pass, as they dined, that Joseph lifted his eyes and beheld his brothers in their unguarded moments. The joy of reunion surged within him, yet the wounds of betrayal lingered like shadows. He took a breath and, in disguise of authority, called for the banquet to begin. "Serve the men," he commanded his steward, and lavishly, the feast was prepared, each delicacy more abundant than the last. When the food was set before them, Joseph's heart swelled with emotions unspoken. The brothers exchanged nervous glances, for the governor had seated them in order of their birth, from the eldest to the youngest. They marveled at the mystery of their arrangement, their hearts pounding as thoughts of guilt and trepidation clouded their minds. "Is this man a sorcerer?" they whispered in fervent tones, questioning the unseen power that orchestrated their fate. Joseph, controlling his gaze, looked upon Benjamin, whose youth reminded him of innocence lost. "How is it that you are this day?" he inquired, feigning ignorance of their kinship. Benjamin's visage was pale, yet he responded with assurance, "Your servant, Benjamin, is but the child of my mother. We come seeking mercy for our family." At this, Joseph's heart stirred and, hiding his emotion, he quickly left the room, seeking the sanctuary of solitude to weep bitterly. His tears were hot, for they washed over the memories of betrayal, yet therein lay the seed of hope for reconciliation. Upon returning, Joseph commanded the steward to fill their sacks with grain and to secretly restore the silver each brother had come with, placing it back in their bags. This act, unknown to the brothers, was a divine gesture, heralding the restoration God had begun in Joseph's heart and the path he laid for the family. Then, as the night enveloped the land, the brothers prepared to depart, unaware that their way would soon be fraught with a new challenge. The steward called out after them, "Why have you repaid good for evil? The governor's silver is in your sacks." Fear gripped their hearts anew as they realized their mistake, thinking calamity had befallen them once more. They returned to the city, hearts heavy with dread, clutching at their souls with the fear of the unknown. "What is this that God has done to us?" they lamented, their voices trembling within the shadows of uncertainty. Yet Joseph, knowing their plight, remained cloaked in his wisdom. In the court, he awaited them, and as they stood before him, they bowed low, clutching at the ground with their faces to the earth. "You come again under pretense?" he posed, masking the deep currents that swirled within him. Judah stepped forward, emboldened by desperation. "Oh my lord, we are mere servants, the silver found in our sacks was a mystery. Our lives belong to you. Let us bear the consequences of our errors." Noting their sincerity and the change of heart, Joseph's longing for brotherhood surged forth like the tides of the sea. "I shall hold you accountable for your brother, he will remain here as my servant," he declared, his heart torn between justice and mercy. "A servant for a servant? How may we survive? For our father's heart is bound to this child." Judah pleaded, his voice a mixture of despair and conviction. Here, a moment of divine tension hung in the air, a confrontation of past wrongs and present pains. Joseph watched intently, understanding that this interaction was tasked with birthing the coming transformation he had longed for. "Shall I see you willing to face the very consequences of your past? This shall be the test," he thought, as hope and trepidation intermingled. For as he looked upon the brothers, the fabric of their lives began to weave anew. Unbeknownst to them, the threads of God's sovereign plan were tangling and twisting to form a new tapestry of redemption. In time, the truth shall be revealed, Joseph pondered in silence, and with it rose a divine anticipation swirling around them, for what they could not foresee was an impending encounter with forgiveness that would change their destinies forever. And thus the chapter closed, draped in the mystery of God's intention. As whispers of reconciliation echoed through the shadows, could the ancient wounds of betrayal give way to the light of a new beginning? And Joseph, his heart wrenched with the weight of unresolved histories, gazed intently upon the men who once conspired against him. The air was thick with unspoken words, laden with fear and regret, intertwining like the very threads of their fate. "Why do you hide the truth from me?" he spoke, his voice steady yet heavy. "I have the power to discern your hearts. Speak, for the Lord's judgment is upon you." The brothers quaked at his words, for they were reminded of their past misdeeds. Their breathing quickened, a dance of anxiety woven into the fabric of their deliberations. Reuben, the elder among them, prostrated himself. "We are nothing but your servants, my lord. You know our guilt, we wronged you, and now we carry the burden of our father's grief. We have come seeking grain and mercy." His plea hung in the air, a tender yet desperate calling for compassion amidst judgment. At this, Joseph's eyes softened, yet he held firm in his resolve. "If you are honest men, prove it. Your youngest brother must come to me. Bring him to stand before me, that I might behold the face of innocence you claim." His decree fell like a hammer upon their hearts, igniting memories of their father's love for the boy they had once nearly sacrificed. Judah rose, courage awakening within him. "O my lord, should harm befall him, our father's heart will cease. We bear the weight of his sorrow. Let us not test the limits of fate any further." His words were a heartfelt cry, reverberating through the hall, anchored by the ripples of familial love and fear. Joseph felt the wrestling of emotion within him. The echoes of manipulation and betrayal paled in comparison to the love of a father witnessing the pain of separation. "Then I shall keep one of you here," he commanded, a flash of authority illuminating his countenance. "Bring me Benjamin, and I shall know if your words bear truth." As the brothers were led away, consumed by the urgency of their circumstances, Joseph withdrew once more, wrestling with the conflict of his soul. How could he reveal his true identity when the shadows of the past still draped heavily upon their hearts? Tears brimmed again in his eyes as he pondered the depth of forgiveness. Meanwhile, as the brothers journeyed back to their father Jacob, they relayed the weighty news. "We must return for our brother," they implored, sorrow cloaked in desperation. But Jacob's heart, frail and torn, quaked as he spoke. "You have taken from me my son, and now you would seek to risk another? Is there no peace in this cursed famine?" Yet they urged him, "See the provisions we have brought. We cannot return without Benjamin, it is the price for our survival and our redemption." Their voices harmonized a symphony of hope against despair as Jacob wrestled with a heart torn between love for his sons and anguish for the one he had lost. "Should it be the will of the Lord," Jacob muttered, surrendering the final decision to divine sovereignty. And thus, the journey was set once again into motion, leading back to the land of Egypt where hope, betrayal, and redemption would soon collide, igniting a divine revelation woven into God's master plan. For even now, unbeknownst to them, the tapestry of restoration was being stitched together in the hands of the Almighty. Little did they know, the path ahead would unveil a greater purpose, designed to fulfill a promise long spoken. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting radiant hues upon the land of Egypt, Joseph stood poised at the threshold of his destiny, his heart a canvas painted with the colors of longing and hope. The reunion with his brothers, fraught with complexities of the past, had awakened a renewed purpose within him. He had watched their hearts shift from despair to determination, weaving a narrative that echoed the faithfulness of God. "Today shall be a turning point," Joseph declared within the quiet confines of his spirit, remembering the dreams of his youth that spun tales of personal sacrifice and divine elevation. This was not merely a moment for reconciliation, it was a divine orchestration leading to the salvation not just of his family, but of a nation. When his brothers once again graced the halls of Pharaoh's palace, this time with Benjamin at their side, Joseph felt a swell of joy mixed with trepidation. The weight of their shared history hung heavily in the air, gloom dancing like shadows around them. He beckoned them forward as they approached with trembling hearts, fearful of judgment. "I am your brother Joseph," he proclaimed, his voice rich with understanding and compassion. "What you meant for evil, God meant for good." In that profound moment of revelation, Judah stepped forth, the leader of their family, his eyes mirrored vulnerability and the pain of their past. "Forgive us, O Joseph. We were fools, driven by jealousy and fear. We thought to rid ourselves of your dreams and destiny, only to find that we have condemned ourselves." The weight of Judah's confession fell like rain, washing over the sins of years gone by, and stirred echoes of grace powerful enough to mend broken spirits. Joseph embraced each brother with fervor, their tears mingling as they cried, not only in sorrow but in the sweet embrace of restoration. The grace Joseph extended is a reflection of God's unfailing love, and with every heartfelt embrace, chains of past sins shattered, setting them free to embrace a future bathed in promise. They shared their stories, their fears, and their longings, in the sacred space of forgiveness which nourished their souls like the grain stored up in the granaries of Egypt. "For this is the covenant of the Lord, that we shall prosper," Joseph proclaimed, his voice rising above the din of their rekindled fellowship. "God has brought us together, not just to survive but to thrive. We shall not only be a family reunited but a people destined to fulfill His grand purpose." As the days unfolded, the family of Jacob found sanctuary in the land of Goshen, where they flourished, multiplying as the sand on the shore, their legacy rooted not only in blood but in faith. God's favor rested upon them, turning hardships into stepping stones for a deliverance promised long ago. Jacob, now drawing near the twilight of his years, was once haunted by memories of loss. As he gathered his sons around him, the weight of years melted into gratitude. "I see now that the Lord has led us here," he said, his voice a tempered whisper resonating with profound awe. "His hand has guided us through the darkest valley to the table prepared before us." With a heart full of hope, Jacob gathered his family one last time, invoking a blessing over each of his sons that echoed through generations to come. "May you be a multitude of nations," he prophesied, "for in you lies the inheritance of promises unbroken." And so, the legacy of Joseph and his brothers took its place in the tapestry of time, a living testament of God's faithfulness. Their journey was not merely a narrative of familial strife but a divine illustration of grace amid struggle, portraying how God can use the broken pieces of a life to create an extraordinary picture of redemption. As history would unfold, the seed of this blessed lineage bore the fruit of a great nation bound for promise and purpose, persevering even through trials. Their story would pave the way for the generations that followed, beckoning all who would listen to embrace hope amid despair, for into every life God weaves His plan, forever faithful in His love and purpose. Here now, dear reader, do you see the divine hand at work in your life? This is the moment to reflect on God's faithfulness in your own journey. If this powerful narrative has touched your heart and rekindled your faith, I urge you to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next uplifting biblical stories. Leave a like now so that together, we can help spread God's word through His timeless truths. Your involvement makes a difference. Comment below with your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story has impacted your faith, for your insights enrich our community. Lastly, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. The journey of faith is best traveled together.